Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan Little for PokerCoaching.com, here today with a hand from the final table of the $10,300 buy-in, $2 million guaranteed event that takes place on GGPoker every week. They have lots and lots of high-stakes action there, and this final table is streamed with commentary at GG's YouTube channel at youtube.com/GGPoker on Tuesday. So the tournament takes place on Sunday, and then once they get to the final table, there's one day off, and then they stream it at youtube.com/ggpoker. And here's a hand from last week's tournament that I thought was especially interesting. So let's take a look at the stack sizes before we get started. When you do get to the final table at most tournaments on GGPoker, they set the average stack size to 40 big blinds. That way there's some play at the final table instead of sometimes people being super short and it just being a lot of people going all in. So in this scenario, we have some pretty deep stacks. Notice Beast here in the small blind has a pretty big stack of 73 big blinds. Most of the other players have 25 to 35 or 40 big blinds. But then Gleb here is very shallow, playing only 5 big blinds deep. So in this scenario, what's going to happen is all of the medium stacks, pretty much everyone besides perhaps Isaac here and Beast in the small blind, are incentivized to play very, very tightly. On GGPoker, a cool feature they have is that whenever they get to the final table, you can actually bet on the players. So you can get a little sweat in, right? Also, a lot of these players opt to be staked, where you, as the observer, can buy action in these players. And sometimes you can find pretty good buys. That said, it's not available to Americans right now, which is a bit of a bummer. But I still enjoy watching this footage because very often at this final table, we are observing some of the absolute best players in the world play. All right, in the spot, Beast is in the small blind. They fold around to him, and he has King-Jack offsuit. This is a spot where, when I am the big stack, I'm just raising a ton because I know the medium stacks, like Bruno here in the big blind, have to be very, 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 very tight because they really don't want to go broke before the 5 big blind stack. And like right here, if Beast raises to 3.5 big blinds, I think Bruno has to fold a hand even as good as 8-6 suited, which is normally a no-brainer defend. But facing aggression in a spot where you just really don't want to be all in, you have to fold out a ton. I actually discussed this idea of risk premium a lot in my tournament masterclass at pokercoaching.com/premium. Make sure you check that out because this is a situation where a lot of people mess up by defending their big blind too wide in a situation where they really don't want to go broke next. Because when you have 8-6 suited, if you make top pair or 2 pair or something like that, and you end up finding yourself all in, sometimes you're going to be, well, all out, and that's not where you want to be in 7th place. Anyway, in this scenario, let's take a look at what Beast does. Beast is a regular in these games. He's had, I think, a win and another few good scores. He likes to limp, and now Bruno in the big blind with 8-6 suited has a pretty easy check. He does not want to raise because he really wants to keep the pot manageable. Bruno, by the way, is the number 9 online tournament player in the world at the moment. So absolute world-class player, and I will assume that whatever he does is probably better than what I would have done if we happen to disagree. All right. He, of course, checks. Flop comes 10-7-5. As the big stack in Beast's shoes, I would just be triple barreling here. King high probably is not going to win all that often at the showdown. And also, Bruno is going to have to fold out stuff like 1 pair hands by the river if you bet flop, bet turn, jam river. This is a very common spot as the big stack where you get to apply an immense amount of aggression. And Beast does go for the bet. Bruno with the open-ended straight draw has a very easy call. If they were both playing very deep stacks with no payout implications, maybe he can raise. But even then, you're going to find that in position with your draws that have very good equity, like this one, you don't really want to raise because let's say Beast bets 136 and you make it 400. Then Beast can just shove it all in if he feels like it, right? And now Bruno would have to fold out this draw that has very good equity, which is a disaster. So this is a spot where you're pretty much always calling with the 8-6 of hearts in this scenario, especially when there are payout implications. So pretty easy spot to call. Turn is the 8 of clubs. And this is a situation where if I was in Beast's shoes, I would probably just keep on betting. You have the gut shot, right? If you get a 9, you have a straight. King and Jack may be good. Maybe not the Jack, but King almost certainly. He decides to check, though. And look, I get the idea of checking here. This is a spot where Obviously, Bruno's going to have a whole lot of pairs slash two pairs slash draws, and he's not going to fold very often on the turn. But I think if you bet kind of big on the turn and then blast the river, you're going to have an immense amount of fold equity. Anyway, he checks, and now Bruno has to decide what to do. This is a pretty dicey spot because you have second pair, which is probably good, but you really don't want to get raised. Because if you bet here and get raised, the risk premium, which we discussed about earlier, is through the roof. Again, check out pokercoaching.com/premium to make sure you understand risk premium thoroughly, because it's really important at final tables. And right here, with Gleb being so shallow, there is a huge risk premium. So what would you do in this spot? Take a second and think about it, and write it in the comments below. With this second pair, open-ended straight draw, would you check? Would you bet small, like 130K? Would you bet big, like 460K? Or would you bet gigantic, like $1 million? Pause the video, go ahead, write it in the comments section below. I don't actually know what I would do here. This is a pretty tough spot. I think nitty-nit Jonathan Little would probably just let it go check on the turn and then have an easy call on basically all rivers. Because I know in the scenario on the river, Beast is going to be highly incentivized to bluff if he has nothing. And he could even be value betting kind of thin if he feels like it. So I think I'd let it go check. However, Bruno does go for the small bet. And if Beast is never going to get out of line and is going to play generally straightforwardly, I don't hate this. But if Beast is going to be raising any amount of the time, this is very dicey. I don't know anything about Bruno's poker strategy, so who knows if his bet sizes mean anything here. But typically when people go for smallish bets like this, they're betting with a lot of thin-ish value hands. And with your thin-ish value hands, you really don't want to get raised. So if Beast is aware of this, which maybe he is, maybe he isn't, maybe this bet means nothing from Bruno, I don't know. But if he thinks this range is kind of weak, Beast, as the chip leader, should apply immense aggression and check raise. I know it may feel a little bit dirty check raising here with just a gut shot and overcards, but what are the other options, right? I mean, you can call out a position with king high. That's not really what you want to do. And in this scenario, Bruno does have to be tight because of the payouts. So I would love a raise in the spot from Beast. And then I'd probably be jamming on a lot of rivers. Feels dirty to jam it all in the spot with nothing in a spot where your opponent could clearly have lots of two pairs, straights, etc. But I think it's probably going to be the right play as the big stack with Gleb being so short. And Beast does go for it. I love this play. Seems very, very sweet. Puts Bruno in a miserable spot. With the open-ended straight draw, I don't think you can fold this. I don't think you want to shove either, because if you shove and get called, you're just in terrible shape. And he does decide to call, and oh no. Both players somehow have a straight on the river, and I have to presume this is going to spell doom for Bruno. If I was in Beast's shoes, I would still shove it all in. This is a spot where he should be bluffing a ton. And Bruno with the bottom end of the straight, I think it's just a reluctant crying call, and he's going to be long gone. Beast does go for the jam, as expected. And I think Bruno just has to call. This is unfortunate. I would have called here, mainly because Beast is highly incentivized to bluff with a ton of his range. Anything they can't win at the showdown, and that's going to be like a whole lot of one-pair type hands. And you beat all that, right? So risk premium, like we discussed, is obviously through the roof here. Bruno does need to win a lot. And if Beast is very active and aggressive, I think this is just a call. However, maybe Beast is actually kind of tight. Very often, some players will be very loose and aggressive and battly on the early betting rounds, but kind of tight on the later betting rounds. So if Bruno has a read like that, I mean, I guess you could make a hero fold. That said, Jonathan Little does not make a whole lot of hero folds. Definitely a tough spot for Bruno because his range looks kind of marginal, like a lot of one pairs and two pairs here that probably need to fold, which should incentivize Beast to bluff, but this time he's not. This time he has the nuts. Well, second nuts. Bruno's giving it some thought. What's he going to do? They give you a lot of time on GGPoker. They want to make sure you don't have to risk all of your money with no thought, no time for thought. And wow, this time Bruno does make the laydown. And Bruno stays in the tournament, whereas Jonathan Little, and probably a lot of you here watching, would have gone broke. Big fold, and somehow it was right. So that's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, do me a favor, click the like and subscribe button below. Also, let me know in the comments if you enjoy seeing this type of recorded final table content with the cards face up. Good luck in your games. Have a great, great week. Thanks again for being here. Click the notification bell so that you're always aware whenever I have more videos come out. And I'll talk to you next time.